Good evening, and thank you for joining us today on another program of On Call. I am Thalissa McClure, and with me, of course, is our lovely co-host, resident doctor in the house, Dr. Maxwell. Dr. Max?
Yes, good evening. How are you?
I am good. I know, as usual, we're catching you in between sessions.
That's
so,
good.
And time is money, especially for a doctor. So we need to make sure that we wrap this up quickly so that you can get out of it. But of course, thank you very much for coming on set with me today. Today, we are going to talk about something that is very rampant, something that has been talked about a whole lot. It's of media, international concern. It's not just local, but it's of international concern. And we need to make you aware so that you can take precautions and better help yourself so that you do not become a victim of this. And what we're talking about today is none other than the Zika virus. All right? Zika. Well, thank God, we haven't had any reports as yet about Zika being in Tobago. Hopefully we wouldn't have any. But the fact that it's in Trinidad suggests that it's just a matter of time before it eventually crosses to Tobago.
That's true.
Yeah, so we need to be, an ounce of prevention is always better than a pound of cure. So while it is not here as yet, it is out there. And so because it's out there, we're getting the information. And because we have that information, we can better treat with it. So Dr. Max, first of all, let us talk about what really is Zika. I know you were telling me, I don't know if we could get into all the little scientific, but I know Zika is one of the virus transmitted by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. I know you were telling me a little bit about that. Just expand on that for the viewers, just to help us better explain what Zika is.
The Zika disease, as we are recently, been informed, is transmitted by the Zika virus. It's not a new disease. Okay, it's been around as far back as 1947. Okay, in Zambia, and it was also first diagnosed in Nigeria in 1954. So it's something that's been around for a very long time, and it got its name from the geographical location where it was first discovered. That is in Zambia, in the Zika forest. All right. Now, it's just one of the many diseases that the Aedes aegypti mosquito transmit. You will know in the time past we've had things like yellow fever. Thank God, because of vaccines and stuff like that, that is no longer a threat. And we've got dengue fever, which we all are very aware of in this region. And immediately after dengue fever, we also heard about the chikungunya virus, which made its entrance about 2 years ago. All right, now we've got Zika. All of them are transmitted by that same female mosquito, a very dangerous, mosquito, really. Usually the Zika virus was in the forest with animals, they used to be with the exotic animals in the forest, but with the advent of man, going into the forest and intermingling with some of these things, the virus more or less moved from, those animals into man. And of course, the vector, which is the mosquito, was able to carry, and that's why you get from man to man transmission through the vector, the mosquito. Basically, so that's just the history of Zika virus, and it's of late, about 2 years ago, that we're now seeing another upsurge in the incidence of Zika from Polynesia to Yap Island, and then of late into the South American continent, in Brazil specifically, and is more or less wreak a lot of havoc there because of the large number of infections that they've gotten. However, it's gone to Barbados, it's gone to Jamaica,
it is
and
all
now
over.
It's in Trinidad and Tobago. But strangely enough, from a session that we recently had, the 3 cases of Zika viruses that were found in Trinidad and Tobago, they didn't have any history of traveling to any of these Zika infested area. There was no history of the recent travel. So that raised some questions. If it is already here before that, or maybe some of the travel came in here.
And didn't, but you know, Doc, I was going to ask that because I mean, I'm thinking, I mean, even as the whole thought comes, first, it's a bit curious, you know, it challenges the mind a bit in that these things have been around for how many years? 60, 70, 80 more years, all right? And how is it? I mean, people have been traveling since then. That's not a new thing. You know, people have been traveling for a long time. I mean, before we were flying, we were traveling on the boats. And, you know, how is it then that it is now surfacing in these parts? I mean, sometimes I think maybe it was already here. Maybe people would have already gone through it because you didn't know it and you didn't know by name. And then because for, you know, a long time ago.
The awareness wasn't there.
Right. And then, I mean, with the advent of modern technology and medicines and everything, you know, people get treated a whole lot more. They go to, but I mean, prior to that, there was a whole lot of home remedies. Somebody falls sick, you go boil a bush, you pick a, you have a little fever, your joints hurt. So maybe, you know, people would have treated it in different ways without necessarily, that's just my own supposition. Because I'm thinking.
It's a lot of questions to be answered where Zika is concerned, really, because even myself as a medical practitioner, I have a lot of unanswered questions. All right. I mean, I grew up in Nigeria, and if this disease has been there, I've never heard about it before. It was recently I was reading some literature, then I realized, okay, this thing has been in Nigeria since 1954, and there was another literature I read that said 25% of the people in Nigeria actually has antibodies.
Develop
antibodies against this disease. So then you move to Brazil, and it's causing so much of problems and havoc with pregnant women and children and stuff like that. Then I asked myself, okay, if it's causing that in Brazil, why didn't it cause this problem in this place? You know. And it's a lot of unanswered question personally for me. However, Zika is a very new, I mean, the hype around Zika is pretty new and fresh, and there's a lot of researches now that have been, you know, developing, and every day you're getting some new information. Some of them are not confirmed, some of them still need to be researched to be confirmed. So it's a whole lot of things outside there. So there's not much of the information that we can say categorically, this is sure. There's speculations, there are postulates, and there are hypotheses, and the research is needed to be done to really confirm it. And that brings me to when Ebola came up. Ebola came about like 2-3 years ago and was a big issue in the Western African country. But then when I started reading, I said, Ebola has been around for decades before then in Zaire, you know. So sometimes some of these diseases move from one geographical location to another through travels. Some maybe the virus might change or mutate and stuff like that, and something happens that modifies the way it reacts, behavior in terms of infection, mode of spread and stuff like that. So where Zika is concerned, it's a lot of unknowns, and it's a lot of things to be really confirmed.
You know, I wonder if part of the extra awareness and the drive at awareness has to do primarily, and I want to believe that it has to do with primarily because of the fact of the pregnant mothers being affected and how it would affect the children. Because, I mean, we're thinking about a generation to come, and if you have so many people in the generation, so many children being affected and being affected negatively, then what does it say for, you know, who are to take over? And I think maybe because of that, you know, that is part of the reason for the extra sensitivity, the extra awareness being played out. Because, I mean, as you say, if it has been in Nigeria for so long, right, and I mean, 3/4 of the world was kind of clueless, don't even know what's going on. But here it popped up in Brazil, and these women give birth to babies with, what's the correct word, microcephaly?
Microcephaly.
With microcephaly.
Small head.
Right, the small head shrinking, and then all of a sudden, it's like an epidemic, because now you're saying, well, if 75% of the babies being born coming with microcephaly, then I mean, how is this going to impact? I think the whole thing is the social system, is the health care, is the everything to come. And I want to believe that maybe that is the reason, and that is also what drives the fear. I mean, I know as a female, I was saying to my husband, I am very happy that I do not plan to have any more children, because in a time like this, yes, I said that. In a time like this, I would be thinking, oh my God, I really need to be praying. I really need to be seeking God, and because I'm going to be thinking, if I were to become pregnant, what are the possibilities, that I might get Zika? And then if I get Zika, how would it affect my unborn child? And, and all of these type of things. So I think that is what feeds the fear.
Right. The hype is there, and it's not just a hype alone. I mean, like you said, there's a palpable fear. And the fear is justified if the things that are being alleged are true. Okay? Now, there is still no convincing evidence that there is a sure 100% connection between these things.
Two, yeah.
However, there are evidences that are weighing heavily in that direction that this may be so. All right? I mean, there are a lot of informations, a lot of studies, and a lot of situations that are being, encountered in other parts of the world, and other people who are doing this research that is tying these two events together, all right, such that if it is true, then it is cause for some serious concern, okay? But the idea is not for everybody to be afraid. Like we say, it is not a new disease. It is something that's been around for a while. It might be new to this hemisphere, or it might have been here before. We don't know. Nobody knows. But if those information that are coming out happens to be true, it does have some significant effect on practically everybody, because it is not only that the virus, that's affecting the women, children, that they have microcephaly, okay? It's also been strongly linked to another nervous disease, an autoimmune disorder called
the Guillain-Barré
syndrome, the GBS. That could affect anybody, pregnant or not pregnant. So therefore, there's nobody that is spared in terms of what the virus could do if those things are true. However, researchers are going on now to really confirm the linkages, and most of the studies that are coming practically every day is more or less in support of a strong link that it is likely to be true. Although they are not very confirmatory. Until we get all those confirmatory things and we know that this is definitely the case, then I don't think we should all be panicking yet.
Unnecessarily.
That kind of stuff. Unnecessarily, And even if that is so, human beings have a way of adapting. We just have to find a way to adapt again. It's a new disease. We'll face the reality of its existence, and we'll find ways to adapt.
Come on, we've survived what the civilization has survived. The Black Plague, they call it. Scurvy,
polio,
and oh my goodness, everything that they did not have vaccines for.
So eventually something...
It's not, God didn't promise that that's how it's going to end. So because of that, we can have hope. But we're going to be right back, though, viewers. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can, take precautions to best avoid getting Zika virus or any other virus transmitted by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. So don't go very far. We're going to be right back after this quick break.
Hi everybody, this is Minister Tricia Sobers. What are you doing at 8:30 p.m. on a Sunday evening? Well, this is an invitation for you to join us once again on the program God's Point of View, where we share our opinions, our thoughts, our feelings on topical issues and also difficult issues that are contained in the Word of God. We do say, however, that at the end of the day, it's God's point of view that is the final arbiter for us as believers. So join us here on Tobago Inspirational Network, channel 137, Realizing Purpose, Fulfilling Destiny.
Pastor Terrence Baines, and you are viewing TIN, the Tobago Inspirational Network, channel 137. Don't move from there.
Thank you for staying tuned to today's program of On Call. And yes, we are dealing with a hot topic today. We are talking about Zika. You know, and before we went to the break, we were just looking at how it is. Well, we didn't go into detail on how it is spread, but just about the implications that, you know, Zika has on everyone, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but across the globe. But Doc, before we get into prevention and how best you can take care of yourself, what are some of the symptoms of Zika? How do you know if you've had Zika? If you see someone, you know that more than likely this might be Zika, how do we know it's not chickpea or something so?
Well, that is a very difficult question, even for the doctors and the health professionals to answer, because Zika is a very mild disease in most instances, right? And the symptoms are just like any other influenza or any virus that, you know, anybody might contract. You know, you've got the fever, the body pain, the joint pain, the rash. Sometimes you've got red eyes, we call conjunctivitis. In some instances, you may have things like diarrhea and vomiting, you know, some nausea and stuff like that. In some situation, also you may have malaise and loss of appetite and stuff like that. Things that would generally come with a normal flu or virus infection. So the three of them, in terms of Zika, chikungunya, dengue, they have basically similar symptoms, but Zika is a little milder than the other two. Okay, it's mild. So people may have it. 80% of people who actually have the virus will get better without any treatment, and they don't even know they've gotten it. All right, you know, and that is where the problem is. So if it is that people don't even know they have it, but then they can transmit it. Yeah. Okay, so now that takes me to the mode of transmission, and usually we say it is transmitted usually by mosquito bites. That means somebody got bitten by this mosquito, and then you bite that same mosquito bites somebody else, you know, and it's largely by the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, and there's another one, the Abruptus mosquito. But I'm also hearing.
So we have more than one mosquitoes transmitting this now.
I'm also hearing, I read a literature sometime last week that may be a little bit of concern that it may actually be transmitted by just any type of mosquitoes.
Right.
Right. So if that is the case, you know, I've not seen any other literature to support that, but it's just that one takes it that, okay, there might be more concern because people think just any mosquito can carry that virus. If that is the case, then we really have to go all out for any and every type of mosquitoes, really, not just the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. So that is the mode of transmission generally. However, you could have, from what we're also reading, that the virus could stay in the semen for up to about 4 to 8 weeks. So if somebody travels to an endemic area and contracts the virus, it could be sexually, you know, passed on to somebody. So, and like I was saying in a session this morning, was pointed out that it is not that Zika is an STD. It is not a sexually transmitted disease, but it is sexually transmissible. There's a difference between both of them. It's not like maybe gonorrhea and syphilis. Those are sexually transmitted diseases, meaning that you get them by sexual intercourse and other, you know, sexual, you know, activities. But this one is not that it is a sexually transmitted disease, but it could be transmissible. It's transmissible via sex activity, actually. All right, so there's a little difference between both of them. So people should not go...
That's a thin line, though.
Very thin line.
Like
so people should not be walking around scared to say, okay, well, Zika is an STD. No, it's not being classified as an STD, at least not as yet.
Well, it just means that if your spouse would have traveled to some way that is prevalent with Zika, for 8 weeks up until they come back,
avoid sex.
Or if you do, you make sure you have
protection.
Right. So
that the other thing is that we say that.
But then, just I'm not cutting you, but I mean, I'm seeing that it could also be transmitted via saliva.
Right. That's what I was going into. It's also found in saliva, and it's also found in urine. So therefore, we have to also look at the oral sex as well, if it is a possibility, but I have not heard of any case of such transmission through saliva, but hypothetically it may be possible. Now, being present in urine, we're not too sure how that may be. I don't think that's really have any impact. We don't know anything yet. The other thing is that it crosses through the placenta, and that is what makes the mother
transmit to the
child
baby.
transmission very possible, because it could cross the placenta from the mother into the child. So those are the various ways that are being advanced as a way of transmission, and once we know this, then we're able to
see, the thing is, there are so many unanswered questions still with regards to Zika, and so because of that, you really can't get a handle of how best to, do it. But in the meantime, I've seen lots of memes and stuff, lots of, people playing silly jokes on how to protect yourself from the Zika. I saw a little caption here. People, I thank God for the sense of humor, people. I mean, because you can take sometimes the most serious thing and get someone to laugh at it, right? I was looking, I saw they had this caption of some fellas liming outside of somewhere. I don't know if it's a restaurant or whatever. And so, you would have the chair outdoors with the table and stuff. And so they were there, but on top of them, there was a mosquito net that came down. So you could still have your lime with the boys, but just make sure that you covered, right, so that you're not getting any Zika, right? So I mean, that brings me now to, how do you protect yourself in the interim while all of these things are still left unanswered? I know Health has a campaign now they're running that says don't get bite, right? Try your best not to get bitten by a mosquito. So how do we do that, Dr. Max?
Well, basically, you have to protect yourself against the mosquito. Now, we know mosquitoes are active usually in the dawn time and in the evening time or whatever, but there's another exception to this mosquito. It is also alleged that it could bite during the day. And therefore, you have to protect yourself practically around the clock. Because you're not only protecting yourself against Zika, you want to protect against dengue, you want to protect against chikungunya as well. So use mosquito nets, use mosquito repellents, wear long sleeves as advocated.
Mosquitoes can bite through long sleeves.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of clothes you're also wearing.
I mean, because if you're wearing something like this that I have on, and it's very thin and see-through, I mean, a mosquito land here.
Right. It is advised that you also, wear light-colored dresses and stuff, because mosquitoes really don't like those bright light colors. They are attracted to dark colors, and stuff like that. So apart from those personal precautions that you need to take, there is also the environmental precaution that you need to take in your house, in your yard, in terms of the breeding site, which is the most important thing that we all don't pay attention to. In the bushes around your house, if you've got tires, if you've got plants and water vases, and cluttered gutters and gutterings, and mosquito breeding areas may also include like bottles and covers of bottles that you leave around, because those mosquitoes could breed in very incredibly small amount of water, and therefore just throwing the cover of a soft drink bottle in the yard like that, and maybe water got in there or rain fell in there, mosquitoes could breed in there. So those little breeding sites, tires.
It means you have to keep your surroundings
clean. You have
clean.
to really make sure. So cutting your yard does not necessarily mean that your yard is clean. You have to look at the breeding site, the possible breeding sites. Like if you're building in an area and then you have blocks that have crevices or contain, and then water settles in there, a mosquito could breed in there too as well.
That makes it but especially, I think it makes it a little worse, especially during the rainy season, because then you have to be even more vigilant. Careful. Because I mean, I would think, especially my plants I'm very happy for the rainy season, because I'm happy that my plants will have water. But then little base for the plant that holds the water from seeping out.
Right.
If it rains continuously and the water is just settled there, maybe the plant is big and sheltering it, then that could create a breeding ground for mosquitoes. I was reading something the other day, I think, and I didn't even think, I went and checked immediately. You have a not the standpipe, the inside tubs, the wash tubs.
Yeah.
So I would usually have like a little bucket, just in the event, you know, it drips or anything And I was reading that, you know, even that, right, if it's there for 2-3 days, a mosquito, even 2 droplets of water in there, so I went and I turned over the bucket because I didn't want, you know, any of that to happen. So you have to be so inside as well as outside.
That is so true, because someday I went and filled a bathtub with water because we're having some water problem. And that stayed overnight, and by the second night I could actually see mosquito larvae, you know, wriggling. So I said, but hey, how did mosquito thing get inside here? So as little as that space of time, and with that, you know, you could breed mosquitoes right inside your own house. If you've got non-functioning toilets, you know, the flush container where you flush water, if it stays there for 2-3 days without being flushed, or it's defective, mosquitoes could breed in there.
And your vase with your flowers.
Yeah,
I
flowers,
emptied all
you know,
that, because you know, you like the pretty fresh cut flowers, and so you put them in the vase and you leave your, and most times you would leave that water there for 2 days, 3 days before you change it out. And that and all could become a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
And people have guttering around their house. You need to keep checking the guttering, because if any of it get clogged or partially obstructed and water settles in any part of the guttering, mosquito could breed in there too.
So we need to have mosquito repellent. We need to have mosquito nets.
Destruction of breeding sites.
Destruction of breeding sites. We need to spray our houses every day, our homes every day. We need to make sure we wear long clothing. I mean, all of this is just necessary precaution until we could find out.
And avoid traveling to areas that are, you know, they have this incidence or epidemics of these illnesses. If you don't have to go there, but if you have to go there and you go there, you take adequate protection to protect yourself. And women who are pregnant or who want to get pregnant, they are saying if you travel to any of those places, you extra protect yourself. If you are not yet pregnant, they allow you to delay your pregnancy for a number of
I saw a country was asking the young women to do that, to delay getting pregnant for about 2 years.
2 years, right. And then if you travel to those areas, then you should really, especially guys, you should really not have unprotected sex for at least 2 months.
Spare your wife the drama of also getting Zika. That's if by chance you would have contracted it, right, from a mosquito. Right. So, Doc, that's a lot of responsibility, but as I say, it's absolutely necessary for your own health as well as your well-being. Right. So, I mean, thank you so very much for taking time to come and talk with us and, you know, bring us some more information while we don't have all of the information yet. And viewers, we're going to continue to update you. So as new information comes to light, we're going to bring some more information to you so you too can be as informed as we are on how to protect yourself against the spread of the Zika virus. So thank you once again, Dr. Max, for your time. And viewers, thank you for staying tuned up to today's program of On Call. Of course, you can join us again next week, same time, same place, for another program right here on the Tobago Inspirational Network. Have a good evening.